episode number. Wow, that was weird.
What happened?
Number 158. Today's topic is building directory sites with WordPress. Let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. We go in alphabetical order. Bet, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Bet Hannon, and I build websites with Bet Hannon Marketing, and we mostly serve nonprofits, and I coordinate the Fresno WordPress meetup.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. Chris, how about you?
Hi, my name is Chris Lema, and I blog over at chrislema.com. I run the North County San Diego WordPress meetup, and I'm the CTO of a company called Crowd Favorite.
Awesome. Jacob, what about you?
Hey, what's up? My name is Jacob. I'm a front-end developer here at Zeek, and I'm not driving through a tunnel.
Awesome.
These are important facts.
Thank
What about you, Russ?
My name is Russell Aaron, lead organizer of WordCamp Vegas, and I'm one of many co-organizers of the Vegas WordPress meetup group, and I love WordPress. I'm here to rock out.
Sweet. Say, rocking out. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Say, and I'm here to say I like to play with WordPress. I just made that up on the fly. Could you tell? I don't think so.
She likes to play by the bay with some hay. What do you say?
Oh, you're so much better at rapping, white boy. Okay, anyway, I'm Say at Say Read Media, and do WordPress, make WordPress, teach WordPress, and let's talk WordPress. Yeah, let's
All
go.
of a sudden, this turned into 8 Mile.
I don't know what's happening.
I was going more Happy Gilmore, but...
Suzette, is your audio working?
My audio is working, but I'm going to go turn off my fan. Hello, everybody. I'm Suzette Franck. I teach at Girl Develop It, and I love WordPress, and I'll be speaking at Sacramento WordCamp.
Yeah,
Big old stack of WordPress. I've been waiting to say that.
Wow.
Steve, save us.
Oh, this is beyond saving. I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at here, the show WPwatercooler, and I also do a show called WP Blab, which we do that every Thursday. So,
You never talk about that. It's a good thing. Okay.
be quiet. You.
Be quiet. Okay. Hey, wait, if you, for example, had a bunch of podcasts that you wanted to list out, say, in a directory, how would you do that, Jason?
Well, according to Wikipedia,
Steve, so it must be true.
I can't, you guys. It's too hot in here. What the hell?
wow.
So who's built a directory site, and who wants to kind of give us a little definition of what the expectations were for something like that?
I have, and it's old, and I'm about to redo it, so this is really super dupe sauce relevant for me. Thanks.
I thought about half a dozen of them.
Should we talk about what a directory site is first?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Wikipedia.
There's nothing. I didn't look up Wikipedia. What's a
You're really
directory
slacking
site?
in your research here.
So you're saying we get to start a Wikipedia, is what you're saying, Steve.
So Angie's list. I want the next Angie's list.
A directory site. A directory site can be a lot of different things. So some people will think of a directory site like Yelp, where you have a lot of entries and you can go search in a topic and get those entries. And in certain cases, those entries are pre-created, and then they say, hey, if this is your listing, feel free to come and click in and take over your own listing, which sometimes people can monetize. A directory can also be, when you're talking about nonprofits, it can simply be a list, and those can be categorized or non-categorized, but a list of members, for example, in part of an association. And so if you want to show the list of your membership roll, or if, and that can even be protected, but maybe you want inside the organization, you want people to be able to find each other, that can also function as a directory. And then, of course, you have service offerings that can be directories like resume sites or job sites, where you have a list of resumes, or a list of people available for hire, or a list of job openings. Depending on how you think about those, some people will use directory software to do that. So the thing that most directory sites have in common is the fact that they're listing things. The real core of the question is, how do you want it to work? And how you want the directory to work will often dictate the kind of solution you want to build.
Yeah.
Right. So, for instance, do you need to have this directory be searchable in any way? Is it just an alphabetical listing, or do people need to be able to find listings via zip code, the nearest service to them? So, lots of different ways that you can begin to put things together.
Not only that, but if you look at the WordCamp Central site, that in itself is a directory, and it just shows the up-and-coming WordCamp events. And I think that's a whole other aspect of directories as well. But like Chris was saying, it's just listing.
So essentially, though, what the beauty of WordPress, as we often say, or I do anyway, is that the inherent functionality is for that. Like, WordPress really lends itself well to this type of listing situation, whether through custom post types or various plugins or whatnot. But so it really does. It is a good choice if you are making a directory site in a lot of cases.
I would say that more now than ever, WordPress is one of the best tools for the directory. It's just because we saw themes and we saw stuff like that, but now there are so many plugins. But there's another plugin that lets you build relationships between posts and other posts.
Post to post?
Yeah, so you can have like a directory of like all people who offer cat food, and then write posts about cat food and link to them and have that relationship. And I think WordPress has done a brilliant job helping that relationship.
So, Russ, do you have a favorite directory plugin?
Do I have a favorite? I have many a favorite directory plugin. My favorite is just called Business Directory Plugin. It's on the WordPress repo. There's plenty of screenshots, and there's a demo.
SEO for the win on that one.
Lots of SEO on that one.
Yeah. So what does the Business Directory plugin do, Russell?
It creates a directory of businesses. I don't want to be that guy.
Wait. It
doesn't have a vague title. Is it just like you turn it on, you just drop the mic, or what?
But hold on. Hold on. We should make a distinction before we get into plugins, which is there are two ways that you often build a directory site, and how you choose the way you build it will have an impact on how you hear the rest of what we're talking about.
Okay.
There are directory themes where the theme does everything. It even has some functionality in it. There are directory themes. What that means is the layout of the entire site is taken over by the directory. Again, if you look at Yelp, the whole site is a directory, so there are themes that function that way. And so they often will create, for each entry, they're creating a custom post type, and they're letting you fill it in as part of the theme. And then separately, if a directory is just one component of your site, again, like an association or a membership site where one feature is a list of your members, there are plugins that deliver directories. And those are two very different ways to do it. It almost lines up with, do you want your whole site to be a directory site, or do you want the directory to be a component of your site? But the reality is people have done both either way. You just have to be clear. Are you looking at a theme approach, or are you looking at it as a plugin approach? People who choose the plugin often choose it because they want to be able to manipulate the look and feel. People who choose the theme often do it because, wow, it looks exactly like I want it to look already. I can tweak it a little, but I don't have to do any custom work to make this look good. So two different ways before we start getting into the list of the plugins you might look at.
But the important thing to acknowledge with that, however, is the inherent issue that is with themes and plugins, is that if you build your entire theme-based or your entire directory off of a theme, you are not going to be able to update that look, that feel, as opposed to the plugin. So you will be stuck in that, and if that theme goes away or if that theme gets redeveloped, you're going to have to do a conversion, and sometimes a lot of conversion, to get that same data out and being able to play nice with another theme or any other system further down the road.
Well, and one of the things to think about when you're beginning to think about theme or plugin, or even which plugin, is also how are you going to get those listings in there? So we've done a number of sites for clients where they're really having us put up a list of all of their satellite organizations, and that's not things that people are entering into the site. It's a listing of their already existing locations, for example. So what you choose is based on, are you having people do that, entering information? Are you selling listings?
You're selling yourself? What?
No, yeah, people will often sell the right to have a listing entry, right? And so a lot of times you will find that that feature exists in plugins. It doesn't always exist in themes. The theme, if you want a theme that already does this stuff, but you want the theme to protect who has the right to enter, normally you have to add a new plugin to make that possible, and then you have to charge on top of that. So these things, it is one of those places, just like membership sites or just like learning management, where a customer walks up and says, well, I want a directory theme. I want a directory site. And they assume that everybody wants the same kind of directory site.
Sure.
And yet, if you talk to 10 people, you'll discover 10 people have completely different ideas of what features are just like no duh in a directory site. And it turns out they're all different. So you have to know your requirements, and that will help you figure out if you want a theme or you want a plugin.
Well, I think one of the best examples that you're talking about, Chris, is just charging to have a link on their directory listing or not have a link. That is a piece of functionality that you need to decide you want way ahead of before you build your site to find the right tool to get you what you need.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are also other ways of, you really have to look at, maybe you were just saying this, but you really have to look at your content, because even like the available plugins that are available, you have to figure out, what it is. Well, I guess you guys all just said that. I'm just repeating. Blah, blah, blah.
So I asked Jacob.
Blah, blah, blah.
One of the things people do is they pick a theme or they pick a look, and they're like, this is what I want. And then afterward discover, oh, it doesn't have all the features I want, right? So as Russell was saying, start with the features. Start with what you know you want. That's why when you look at these plugins, right, and we were just talking about the business directory plugin, the business directory plugin has a certain set of features, right, and it doesn't prescribe a certain look and feel. So
and they have import and export also.
Yeah, and so look at that and say, does this do what you want? There's another one that I've recommended to people called Ultimate Member. And Ultimate Member lets front-end people register themselves, lets them create their own profiles, lets you pick what additional fields you want, and lets you create a member directory, lets it make it searchable, etc. But the moment you get to, well, but I want to charge for some of these things, well, Ultimate Member doesn't charge, right? Yeah. So then you have to decide, do I want to charge for access to the whole thing, or do I want to charge features? And then you have to insert your own component to it. So knowing what you want ahead of time helps you say, is Ultimate Member going to be good for me? Or the one that I do use and recommend is Formidable.Pro, which is not a directory specific solution, but is a form-based plugin. And the form-based plugin lets you integrate payment, but it also lets you integrate people being able to edit their entry later and come back and forth. And so the features you need will dictate which plugins make the most sense.
Gravity Forms has a directory add-on as well.
So Chris, are you saying that people should plan?
Yeah.
What? You just like wake up one day and build Yelp? I don't know what you're talking about. That's totally what you should do.
Here's the other thing. If we're gonna give me 30 seconds to rant,
no,
you cannot have
that.
You cannot have a Yelp site without paying Yelp dollars. Okay, I'm
Point your finger when you say that. Do the pointed finger.
Wag it.
Hey Chris, real quick,
will you build me Facebook?
Chris, does Formidable Forms have that where people can add a new post out of the box? Because Gravity Forms, you have to use the map to custom post type addition to do that. Does Formidable do that out of the box?
So here's the thing. So first of all, yes. The answer to your question is Formidable.Pro does it automatically out of the box. You can create the post. But here's the more important part. You can also edit the post.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at the Gravity Forms with this extension, it lets you generate the post. It doesn't give you the facility to let that end user go back and edit their own post because it's
another plugin. Yeah.
Yep. So that's why if I want full flexibility, I go with Formidable.Pro for that. It means I don't have to, because Ninja Forms, there's a way to make it work with Ninja Forms too, but you do have to pay. You have to pay for some of those extensions. Yeah. So Formidable.Pro ends up being the most effective one to do it when I want to customize my solution. But there are plugins out there that do this kind of stuff.
Another one that comes to mind is WP User Front End. It's another way where you let people sign up on your site, pay a little bit of money to post, and you can edit that post as well. And it works with custom post types. It's a very cheap solution to get started with if you're just looking to dabble.
What was the name of that again, Russ?
Who doesn't love to dabble?
I love to dabble. WP User Front End.
Okay.
As my phone's ringing, somebody has a question right now.
They're like, wait, tell me more about your dabble.
Let's
Call
go to
now,
Zeek
1877.
So one of the other plugins I was going to mention, because Chris mentioned job boards, there's a plugin called WP Job Board that is actually just an off-the-shelf solution for turning on job board and all the features you would want for doing that.
Yep, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about off
Your
the shelf,
face is awesome.
I think that WordPress, off the shelf itself lends itself just to a very basic directory without having to add all kinds of crazy plugins. Not to say the plugins are crazy, but you can, with a 2015 theme, start having a directory because WordPress itself comes with everything kind of what you need in a directory. It has search, right? Has users, taxonomies. You can create a new custom post type. Yeah.
Jacob, out of the box, nobody wants that kind of a directory. Just say.
No, I mean, let's just say.
Yeah, you can do it, but nobody wants to eat that. You can also have gruel for breakfast, and theoretically that's okay. But
maybe somebody wants to try some gruel. I like gruel.
I like gruel with a little mint on top.
So I asked Jacob to be on today because we created a directory like this recently, where it has listings that our client is monetizing. They're selling listings like a mini Yelp. Site's called bestofnewjersey.com.
I'm sorry, there's a mafia, mini Yelp, what is that?
Bestofnj.com. So
it's where to find really good hitmen, is what it is.
hey, my client might be watching.
Hey, that's the other client.
Hey. So we used a combination of things to make all this work. But their listings were actually tied to events. So because the events are so
eventy,
so
Calendaring.
tightly integrated with the locations, we used Event Manager for managing the locations, and then wrote our own monetization piece on top of that.
That's a sexy looking site, Steve.
And one of the things to note, which I think is what Jacob was getting at, is if you have WordPress on its own, and you have a skilled development agency like Zeek to enhance it, they don't necessarily have to build a custom, or they don't have to build or use a off-the-shelf plugin, right?
Or a theme, yeah.
And the truth is, you're right. The reason people choose the off-the-shelf plugin is because it's $69, and they're like, I would like, and in fact, people do this all the time. I'm sure it happens at my site. I know it happens at Zeek's, where all of a sudden they're like, hey, I want this whole thing, and can I get it for $100? And you're like, no, you can't.
Can you say your rant again about Yelp?
Yeah. So the bottom line is this, though. Your best bet, if you're generating revenue or you plan to generate revenue from a site like this, a directory, hire an agency, right? You hire an agency, guess what? You're going to get each feature you want, and you're not going to get any extra features. You're not going to have any bloat. You're not going to have any problems. It's going to be exactly what you're looking for. But it's like a real business. You wouldn't go into a retail business without paying retail rent, so you're going to have to pay an agency.
That's actually really not true. There's plenty of businesses that do that. Just whether or not they are successful is the difference.
I think that was assumed by Chris's comment.
That's right.
I think Chris assumes every business is successful.
All of my discussions relate to businesses that want to last and make money. So let's just put that there.
Just to clarify, okay, that's an important distinction.
Yeah. But my point is, if you can invest in a small agency that can do something for you that's specific, especially if you're like, I mean, I've worked with folks who are generating $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. I worked with a client who generated $40,000 a month for people signing up to be veterinarian technicians in a board where other people could hire them from that board, right? Because it was so specific a nuance and such demand to find that person that a directory that was protected, that you paid to get access to, and then you paid further to be able to hire one of those people, it made a ton of money. That's not a person you send to a $69 plugin, right? So, they because they're generating revenue, it's a real business. They're going to spend money to build out the solution they want. But if you're just getting started, you have an idea, you're not sure, yeah, try with a plugin or theme and see where you go.
So the other thing I was going to mention on this Best of New Jersey site was the way we imported data, because it was talked about a little bit earlier. So somebody talked about how do you get data in. We actually started with 250,000 listings in New Jersey. So we preloaded all the businesses that we could from New Jersey, and we used it from a source. We integrated a source called Factual. So Factual is a service that just does business listings. You can buy their feed and they'll send you business listings.
I'm going to go on a limb and say it's more than just Domino's listings, because I think there's more than 250 Domino's in New Jersey.
Did I say 250? I meant 250,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think to Chris's point about talking about hiring an agency is when you use a plugin. I'm a plugin developer, and as much as I would like to build a plugin specific for you, when you release a plugin to the public, I have to meet the kind of demands for everybody. So hiring a small business to champion this helps you get exactly what you want instead of maybe what you might not need later.
Well, I think that kind of, depending on the scale that you're going for, like if you're just creating a business directory for like a group or like, you know, some sort of like smaller organization that you don't need to monetize, that's a whole different conversation than the one that we're saying where you should recommend hiring a developer. So that's just a distinction to make, because these are really different. These are really different camps.
Yes, Beth.
Steve, did having 250,000 listings in your thing impact your site performance at all?
It was definitely a concern, but you know, a big part of what we focus on is scalability. So we had to take that into consideration and work on caching, work on transients, things like that.
He used WP Super Cache and he was good.
Right. Actually, that was part of the reason. Part of the reason we specifically chose Events Manager rather than ECP, because Events Manager has a better way of indexing locations separately from WP Post Meta. I know I'm getting very technical for our audience, but it indexes better and searches better.
Well, that is actually, when it comes to directories, that's a huge deal, right? Just one technical component of this. Many of the plugins and even the themes will use custom post types to capture whatever new entry you're creating. The custom post type puts some data in the post table, and it puts some data in the post meta table. Now, Steve is shuddering because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But here's the thing: everybody else who works with WordPress is working with it just in terms of what it looks like. So they're all happy. Look, it looks like it works. I got to fill in a form. It went in. It's staved. I pulled it back on my development machine. It worked. I'm happy. What you don't realize is underneath, you've shoved a bunch of stuff into post meta, and if you've put your data into post meta, the problem isn't putting it in. The problem is getting it out, because post meta is not a place where, in terms of search, you're going to be able to pull that data in an indexed way out of those tables, and you will have a performance problem. So
you can if you're using Types and Views has a really good front end for doing what's called parametric search.
But here's the deal, and I want to add to what Chris said. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to add to what Chris said.
No, you're not.
I am. You actually don't know you have a problem until the problem reveals itself, and that's when you start to get into the hundreds of thousands of listings and 5-10 million rows in your post meta table. That's when it's going to start to reveal its ugly head.
One of my favorite stories is with Mr. John Hawkins. He built a thing called Lawyer Now to help people find lawyers, and they were loading. It was like you were saying, Steve, it's like 250,000 names, and like the site was taking an hour to load, and because those were all being dropped in a drop-down menu, I think it's what the story was, but they had to revision like 4 or 5 different times to get the site to load quicker. But that's just something that it was being stored in a specific way, and it was taking forever to load.
And this is the difference between a software developer who knows what they're doing and a developer who doesn't.
Or someone who's doing it themselves.
Well, when you're trying to index 5 cats on your website, then you can use anything
if you check the box indexed by cats, you're in trouble no matter what.
Well, yeah, when you're trying to index
I always check
it's
the
a little
box
bit different,
indexed by cats.
As long as
Why
you have
is
pictures
that
of
not a
kittens,
box?
it'll be
That
okay.
should be a box for sure.
So this is the same problem that you have with e-commerce solutions, where this stuff gets stored in like all sorts of crazy places, and you end up with data that's just all over the place. And
there is a great post by Pippin over at Pippin's Plugins on how to create extra tables in the database for your plugin. If you're a plugin developer or you're a developer who is thinking about doing something that is data heavy, you may want to look at when to create extra tables. Some people think creating extra tables is a no-no. Trust me when I tell you, if you're that person and you're doing something at scale, you're an idiot. So you really want to think...
Point your finger when you say that.
you really want to think about, if you're going to put in a ton of data, you want to think about scale. And if you want to think about scale, you're going to have to actually understand more than just calling the WPDB class. You're going to want to understand the underlying database, what indexes mean, what table scans mean, and how to prevent table scans and how to leverage indexes.
Pippin actually has I've had the benefit to meet Pippin. He's got a great story about how they changed one name of a table in Easy Digital Downloads, and like they broke 500 million sites or something like that because they did that. So that goes back to the beginning of the show, is plan ahead, way ahead of time, and just know that no matter what you do as a developer, you can never change that table in that database without letting people know at least a few months in advance.
Well, if you're doing a public-facing plugin, or as opposed to like a custom site, although still doing it with a custom site is important, but it's not going to have the same like catastrophic effects, because you could go in and do a manual update, but you do need to be aware of that regardless.
Yeah, it's just directory sites are one of the fastest places where you can get excited about putting in a ton of data, and you're like, look, this is great. I'm going to import all the restaurants in my local area. I'm going to import all the members from my medical association. It doesn't matter what kind of data you're talking about. It's a ton of data, and when that happens, you don't realize until it's too late that you haven't thought through performance. Your $2 a month hosting is probably not going to work for you. Your $29 plugin is probably not going to work for you.
Yeah.
If you're in that case right now, Zeek.com and several others are ready to take your call and help you, because you've walked down a road that you're going to feel some pain on.
Well, and especially if you're running a directory that is open to the public for them to put in their own listings, you never know when that's going to take off.
Well, and that's the problem, though, because also then you're going to get a lot of like data that you may or may not be expecting.
Yeah.
That you have to do stuff with.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about what happens when you have a customer-facing form that people can fill anything in that they want.
Yeah, what drama is that?
I think that's next week's show.
Yeah,
my goodness.
Technically, let's just say sanitize all the things.
Sanitize.
I actually think that's next week's topic.
Wipes.
That's when you need Clorox.
Right,
Did somebody say Clorox?
Jason, hey Jason, I think next week's topic is public forms, public content.
Or is it like public taken in the public data? Steve does it every weekend.
Oh gosh.
That is about it for today. Make sure you go to our website at WPwatercooler.com and click on the link to subscribe and check us all out. If you don't want to watch us, you just want to listen to us, you can subscribe onto iTunes, Slacker, Stitcher, all those fun things. So thank you very much for all being on the show. You guys have
Also, the data's not sanitized. Watch out.